Hey guys, Mike with Chassis Parts Online again. Wanted to go over with the this new simple bag mount I got. Now this is for the CPO narrow crossmember. This is not for the aluminum crossmember. Okay, so this is the hole for the 65 to 79 version. It's got multiple holes where you can move it up and down to suit your need. And this is a thing that you're going to have welded together because it depends on several factors. Depends on what lower arms you got, what kind of bag plates are on the lower arms, whether you got the frame Z'd or not, how much you got the frame Z'd, what wheel and tire diameter you got, because all that affects the wheel and tire diameter. Obviously a taller wheel means your lower control arm is up at more of an angle. Let's say this is the control arm. If you got let's say 15s on there in your lower control arm and you don't have the frame Z, your lower control arm is going to be about that angle. But let's say that you put 20s on it and you try to lay it out. Well, there's your new angle is there. Okay. Let's say you have the frame Z, which brings the center up, basically brings the rest of the frame down, and you only got 15s. Well, your arm may be at that angle, but if you put 20s or something bigger on it, that obviously that raises it up. So all those different factors mean that there's no such a thing. It's like even for the aluminum crossmember, there's no such thing as a bag mount that fits any vehicle. It's only going to fit one specific size tire and wheel, one specific Z or no Z on your frame. Yeah, it'll bolt in there, but if you bolt the bag, if you got a aluminum crossmember like that, and you got, let's say, factory arms on it, bag plates on top, and you just bolt in a generic bag mount. This bag mount may be at the right angle and may not be, but it also may have 4 inches of gap in between it, or 5 inches. It may have 2 inches, okay, which means it's not right, okay, because the thing about airbags is when the suspension is all the way down, the airbag needs to be completely deflated, because if it's not deflated, then you're losing lift because you have to add more air to get it to raise up. Let's go with the typical airbag. Typical airbag collapse is about 2.91 inches, so let's just call it 3 inches. So let's say you got 3-inch gap here between your upper and lower bag plates, okay? You're lucky if you lay it out and it's exactly where it's at, okay? Because if it is 3 inches, let's say you put different wheels on it, and now you got 20s. Well, that brings the lower mount up, okay, to where it's not 3 inches anymore, which means when you put 3-inch bag in there, that raises the whole suspension up, okay, and then it doesn't go down as far as it did before. So for the guys that want to lay the suspension out on an aluminum crossmember like that right there on a Ford truck, let's say 65 to 79, any of those right in there. I mean, even the earlier trucks, but the earlier trucks don't have the step up in the frame. The 65 is when they did that. So let's say you Z the frame 3 inches, and then under the cab on those trucks, let's call this the cab, bottom of the cab floor. Right about where your feet are, the frame goes down like this below the cab, and at the very center of the lowest part, it's a little less than 2 inches. But it's a piece that's almost 3 foot long that's below the pinch weld of the cab on those trucks, okay? So if you cut that part off the bottom of the frame and plate it, then you don't have to body drop that cab or do anything, because most of the frame is already above the pinch welds anyway. But let's say you do that and you Z the frame 3 inches, okay, and you want this thing to to lay all the way completely out. Let's say you got factory arms with the plate that mounts right on top of them. And let's say you're using my CPO narrow crossmember. Okay? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to have your wheels on it. You're going to have your lower control arms on, your upper control arms on. You set something that's 3 inches in there. Where on the lower back plate, and then you're going to bolt this to the frame. Then you're going to set this in there right on top of it. And the distance coming from here to here should already be right, but if it's not, you can trim some off. Maybe these are a little bit extra long, but they're also designed to fit small or big bags that would be right above those generic mounts. Anyways, but let's say you put it in there, you move this down to where this is like right on top of it or as close as you can get it with those mounts right there. You guys with the smaller wheels, it's going to be like that. You guys with bigger wheels, it's going to be up like that, okay? Or maybe even more of a steep angle, depending on how big wheels you got, okay? Well, the way you solve that, the bracing is, when you get this is the brace that goes in the center. It's tabbed. You go in there like that. You can weld it in. You can weld around the sides here. You can weld the back, okay? What you do is you make a template of this, cardboard template of this, bolt this on, set that on top of your bag, where your bag would be on the frame, and you take that template and you keep trimming that template till it gets to be the right shape for that bag plate to fit. Okay, let's say it's like that on your buddy's truck, but he's got smaller wheels. Let's say you're running 24s. Okay, well, yours is going to be up like that, okay? You're just trimming that, this piece. You get your template, and then you just trace on here, and you cut that off, cut the extra off, okay? That's why that's shaped like it is. That's why it's 3/8 in the middle, because this is, bag plates. Bags have a metal plate on the top of them. And this brace is right in the middle of the bag, okay? I've got another version that's got a hole here and a hole here. Basically the same thing. You're just trimming it. So this does require some welding, but this ensures that you get as close to completely compressing that bag as possible, okay? If you just use some regular generic mounts, and let's say your truck with a suspension all the way down, the bag is at 4 inches, it's not completely collapsed. Okay, well you gotta put in more air before it starts lifting up. And bags don't have a lot of air lift to start with, so you're losing lift. And by the time you get it raised up, you're running 120 psi, and it feels like a covered wagon from the 1800s because it rides so rough. What you got to do is get this bag completely collapsed when it's all the way down. That way, it takes less lift, less air pressure to get it all the way up. You would think that you want the bag as far in as possible, but for a better ride, you want the bag out as far as possible, okay? Because that means the bag is less a mechanical disadvantage further out it is. The further you're in, you move the bag, the more mechanical disadvantage the bag is at, but also the higher amount of lift because you're closer to the pivot point. It just takes more air pressure in that bag to do it. Also, you want to fit as biggest bag as you can fit, okay? The biggest, hugest bag. That's why this is cut out in the bottom, because this is going to sit where your bag can go up in there if possible. Okay? Let me grab the bag. Okay. This is just some generic bags. I think we got these off the internet. We just use these for mocking up people's trucks. These got one hole in the top. As you can see, it fits, okay? And that mount would be on there like that. You see, still, even if you bring it in, we just shorten this mount. When it's at an angle like that, it's gonna clear. When you gotta put this on there, you need a 1/2 inch all the way around this bag. 1/2 inch of clearance. Any less than that, and as it's racing up and moving around and ballooning in and out, it could rub. If it rubs at all, it will rub a hole in it. Okay. Even bags like Slam Specialties that people say, well, they don't balloon out. Well, they do balloon out. They just don't balloon out a lot. Okay. So this is the mount. It's 1/4 inch thick. Back is 1/4 inch thick. And the brace, basically, like I said, you just make a template of that, and then you cut the template to fit. Then what you do is set it in there, tack it in, pull it out, weld it up, or have your buddy that welds. If you don't weld, have your buddy weld it. We used to send these out in different links, coming out in different angles, and there's just so many different angles that you got to have to lay out any different truck. So I figured this is the best solution on the narrow crossmember. So yeah, if you got any questions, just put them in the comments section, and I'll answer them there. These bags are one of those things that a lot of guys don't know anything about, or they don't know enough about, or they think they know a lot about. I mean, even guys that do bag trucks for a living, bag other people's trucks, don't know as much about bags as they think they do, because if you ask them what's better for the rear suspension, bag on bar or bag over axle, they're almost always going to tell you bag on bar rides better. No, it really doesn't. Okay, the way they are thinking it rides better is because they're putting a smaller bag on the bar, and it's closer to the pivot point, so the bag's at a mechanical disadvantage. So let's say these 2 wrenches. This is your frame, and this is your forelink, okay? And you put your bag in here, okay? It's gonna ride pretty good. Your axle's back here, but the further you move this here, the more bouncy that ride's gonna be, because this bag is at a mechanical disadvantage. Just like if you had a pecan shell crusher, you got more compression here where that is than you do back here. Okay, so that bag is having to do more work, and this becomes more cushy because you don't have as much spring rate, basically, and going down the road it's going to float more because this bag is being squished more. But actually, the problem there is when you hit a big bump, there's not enough in this bag to keep this from coming down and bang it hard. When the better solution is putting the bag over the axle or behind the axle and putting a whole lot bigger bag, okay? Because then you're not at a mechanical disadvantage. With a larger bag, you're directly over the axle, so there's no disadvantage there. Either way, if you got a large enough bag, you can haul any load you want. I mean, put some ATH or some big sleeve bags back there. Even a bag that's made for a Class 7 or Class 8 truck on say a dually or something. Yeah, it may be a little bit bigger than what people think it needs, but you put less air pressure in it, and it'll ride a whole lot better. I mean, it'll ride way smoother than somebody that puts their bag over here. And as I said, going down the road, this guy here with the bag right there, when you hit a big bump, that's coming down a whole lot, and even shocks don't stop it. So yeah, that's just a little lesson in bags. This is the best I can do for a way to explain it right now. I don't have a board yet. I'm gonna put me a board somewhere up here in the shop. Probably right over there. I'll put some lighting over it, put me a dry erase board, and we'll do some drawings and stuff. And I'll explain stuff the way I know it, the way I've learned it in my, I don't know how many years I've been doing this. I've been doing bag trucks since the early 90s. So anyways, peace.